Oh, there we go. Nice. Sweet. All right, awesome. Welcome. All right, glad to be here. Thanks, everyone. Sorry, I won't be doing this in Spanish. When I'm out there, you can talk to me in Spanish. I need to practice, but I didn't practice enough for this in Spanish, so I will do it in English. I will try to speak slowly and clearly so you can follow along. But today, we're going to talk a little bit about why Ethereum is different, and maybe a little bit about what is the value of hardness. So I'm Skylar. I work with the Ethereum Foundation. I lead the DevCon team, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And I love Argentina. I'm super excited to be back here. I'll take any excuse to come back to Argentina. So thanks for having me. But before we get into what makes Ethereum different, I think it's nice to take a step back and think about what are we trying to accomplish overall. And I think different people have different perspectives of this, right? Like, we are trying to create the next version of the internet, some people say. We're trying to make a platform for ultrasound money, other people will say. We're trying to create the world computer, a layer for human coordination, a community-run technology for decentralized apps. And I think, realistically, all of those things are true. But my favorite definition of late is that Ethereum is a new type of computer. It's a new type of computer, not like a physical computer, more like a network that acts as a computer, right? You can write programs to this computer, and these programs execute according to rules, to established rules, just like in a normal computer. And Ethereum is like a general-purpose computer. You can write any program to this computer, and that program will execute on that computer. There are other types of blockchains like Bitcoin, which is probably like a single-purpose computer, right? It has one purpose, essentially, to be digital gold or like a store of value, whereas Ethereum is like a general-purpose computer. And so what is it that makes Ethereum a new type of computer, right? Like, not like a new type of computer. I would say it is because it has three important properties that make it a new type of computer. The first one being open and globally accessible. Second one being verifiable, and the third one being hardness. These three properties are what make Ethereum a new type of computer, a type of computer that we haven't seen before, that enables us to build new types of applications. So what is this first one? What does open and globally accessible really mean? It means that Ethereum is censorship resistant, right? Anyone around the world, anyone with an internet access should be able to access Ethereum, access the applications running on Ethereum, and they should not be blocked by Ethereum from using this computer. Ethereum, this new type of computer, should be neutral. It should be unbiased. It should be unopinionated. It should not favor one region of the world or one country of the world more than another, which is maybe like, I don't know, Twitter or Facebook or government systems. No, like, those are clearly biased. Those are clearly not neutral. And we are trying to create something quite different from those systems. The second property is verifiable. So, like, what does verifiable mean, right? It means basically that you can audit the blockchain. You can audit this type of computer. You can download and verify the current state. So basically, like, anyone should be able to look at this computer and see that the current state, the current status of the computer is valid, is true. Anyone should be able to download the current state of this computer and verify that it's valid. And this should be able to be done by average people. By you and me, we should be able to look and verify with this computer that the state it is telling me is true, is actually true. And this is something that's different with Ethereum than a lot of other, I don't know, blockchains or even services that exist out there. In many cases, your average person cannot run a node. They cannot verify the status of the blockchain. And this is something that Ethereum clearly has on its roadmap, has on its mind, right? We can run nodes nodes on cheap Raspberry Pis, Ethereum on ARM. We're working on an upgrade to come to Ethereum called Verkle trees, which should make it even easier for people to verify the state of Ethereum, all in this greater effort to make sure that Ethereum is verifiable, that this type of computer, anyone can verify that what's being run on there is accurate, is being done correctly. And that's important for us. Another aspect of verifiability is I would say our dedication to FOSS, right? So like free and open source values are something that is quite intrinsic to the Ethereum community. So like all of the source code for the protocol is open source. All of the client code is open source. All of the protocol specifications, they're open source. Anyone can verify that the clients do what they're supposed to do what they say they do. It's important for security, it's important for trust, it's important for hardness. Changes that we make to Ethereum and innovation that we do to Ethereum is also open and transparent. Right? So research is done in the open. There's a really popular forum online called the ETH Research Forum. This is where people share ideas about ideas for different improvements to Ethereum, and anyone can share an idea, anyone. So it's permissionless in that sense that anyone around the world can share an idea to improve Ethereum. They can discuss it here. Anyone can read past improvements that people have suggested, and this contributes to the verifiability of this new computer and the openness and global accessibility of it. Anyone can then also create an EIP, right? So EIP is an Ethereum improvement proposals. This is how we improve the Ethereum network. Anyone can go through and create a new EIP to suggest some sort of feature to Ethereum. There's the EIP, and in general, not just is it important that Ethereum itself is open source, or like the Ethereum clients are open source, there's also a big culture of projects being built on Ethereum that are open source, right? And this is important because if you're interacting with a project, you're interacting with a new DeFi application, you want to be able to be sure to verify, to validate that it does what it says it does. And it's important, I think, for our ethos. And this is something that probably doesn't exist in many other ecosystems. This is something that I think is quite unique to probably the Bitcoin ecosystem and the Ethereum ecosystem, that they have really embraced the ethos of free and open source software. And all of this adds up to verifiability, which I would say is an extremely important property that makes this new type of computer. And the last property is a property called hardness. I'll call it hardness. Actually, I'm stealing this from an article I read from a guy named Josh Stark, who talks about hardness. But basically, I would say this property is maybe one of the most important properties of these new types of computers. It's basically saying that they make a strong commitment about the future of the computer. And this commitment says that not only are we neutral today, not only is the computer open and accessible by anyone today, not only is it censorship resistant today, but that this will continue far into the future. And this is a sense of like hardness, like how hard is the project? Like how long will it continue to have this neutrality, this openness, this censorship resistance? And so why does Ethereum have hardness? I would say there's a few things that contribute to Ethereum having hardness. One of them is the governance procedure, right? So like, how do upgrades get made to Ethereum? Upgrades are made to Ethereum through a process of informal governance, right? It's people all over the world coming together in public to discuss upgrades that are being proposed to Ethereum, and it's a public process. It's verifiable, and it's open. Anyone can participate. And I think this is a pretty important aspect of us having hardness. You can kind of expect the types of changes that will come through long term. It's part of our values also. I would say striving to be credibly neutral is within the values of Ethereum, right? We want this system to remain neutral, to remain accessible, open to everyone around the world. It shouldn't preference just one country, one region, and this is something that is inherent in the values of Ethereum and in our governance process. Thirdly, I would say global community of contributors. So like people all over the world, right? So Romy just made a big call to action to all of you here to keep active and keep building within the Argentinian community. I think your community is great. I think you have one of the strongest communities in the world. I think Argentina is a place where I think Argentina is like unique in the world. I don't think there's another place in the world that has as much use for crypto and as much capability among its people to actually take advantage of that in the world, from what I've seen. So I think that what's important is that there is a global community of contributors, right? There's people in Argentina, but there's also people in Southeast Asia. There are also people in Central America, in Africa, in Europe that are contributing to this project. And all of this adds to the hardness of the project. Another aspect I would say of the hardness is that there is innovation on L1, but I would call this intentional innovation. So this is like any upgrade that we make to the L1 has to be seriously intentional, has to be really thought through, has to be tested a lot. And this means that, one, we're not going to make rapid changes to the L1, to Ethereum. There won't be quick changes. We will do it responsibly. But two, this also means that maybe changes come a little bit slower to mainnet, to Ethereum. But this is also where L2s play a role. So you'll hear a lot about L2s. Later on, there will be a nice panel from some people from Scroll, from Aztec, and from ZK Sync. And you'll learn more about L2s, but I think one of the biggest advantages of L2s is just that we now have permissionless innovation around Ethereum. So we don't need to upgrade Ethereum mainnet, Ethereum L1 that quickly, that fast, because we can let L2s upgrade and innovate much faster. And so these L2s are like Scroll, are like ZK Sync, are like Arbitrum, Optimism, Aztec. These are all innovating in different ways. And I think this also contributes to the overall hardness of the protocol, because now Ethereum L1 is pressured less to upgrade and upgrade quickly. And we also have things like L2 Beat, which help us analyze the hardness of each of these individual L2s to verify that they're actually secure, that they're actually decentralized, which they're all working on. And then lastly is decentralization overall. I would say this is the biggest contributor to hardness of Ethereum, is that it's decentralized not just geographically, not just geographically, but also operationally, right? So we have a global community of people who are running nodes, who are contributing to staking in the network. It's decentralized in a governance perspective of involving contributors from all around the world. And all of these properties, all of these things contribute to Ethereum having hardness. And I would say this is probably one of the most important properties of this new type of computer. And this is an article that talks more about this property of hardness. But here he starts off basically saying the distinctive value of blockchains is that they can be reliable. That statement is basically how hard is your blockchain? How much hardness does it have? And I think this is probably also the rarest property among blockchains, because it takes time. It takes time to build up this property of hardness, and it's one that needs to have a lot of time, a lot of intentional effort built around it. To make the projects have hardness. So thanks to these three properties, open and globally accessible, verifiable, and hardness, Ethereum is this new type of computer. And this new type of computer allows you to do things that were not possible on previous types of computers, right? So what are these things? These things are global digital financial infrastructure. A global financial infrastructure is something you can build now on this new type of computer. You can build social media without censorship. You can build digital property rights for all. You can build digital identity that you actually own. You can build trustworthy money. And you can build like a platform for coordination. And so like these are just some of the ideas, some of the examples of things that are possible, like applications that are possible on this new type of computer that were not possible before. And so like let's ask ourselves, like does Amazon Web Services have these properties, right? Like open, globally accessible, verifiable, hardness. Like no, like they censor people all the time. You have no idea whether they're actually running the servers the way they say they are. And they can change their stuff at any time. So no, it doesn't have these properties. Does your traditional government services, like your IDs or your central banks, have these properties? It's definitely not open and globally accessible, right? Like I can't go get an Argentinian ID. I'm not from here. And the central banks are not that verifiable and not that hard in that like they could change their minds pretty quickly. And so I would say no, they don't really have these properties. Does your local bank have these properties? Also not really. They're not really verifiable. Like how like do they have hardness? Realistically, not that much. Do centralized blockchains have these properties? They might have these properties more than like your local bank or more than Amazon Web Services, sure. But do they have them to the degree that like Bitcoin or Ethereum has these properties? Realistically, not so. And probably the one they lack the most is oftentimes this hardness one. This is the one that takes the most time and the most intentional decentralization among the project to achieve. And so not really. Does Ethereum have these properties? I would say they do okay. Like Ethereum does okay with these properties, and there's something that we can continually try to improve. This is what we are continually trying to improve, making it more open and globally accessible, making it more verifiable, and increasing its hardness, which is something that will come with time. And so all of this say that Ethereum is different. And another thing I want to check out, like, so Ethereum's different. Now, why do I dedicate my time to Ethereum? And maybe why should you all decide to build on top of Ethereum or contribute to the Ethereum ecosystem? Especially in a day when there's so many other competing or alternative projects out there, right? Like Monad, parallelized EVM coming soon to you, Aptos, Sui, Berachain. I don't even know much about Berachain yet, but I'm sure you're going to hear about it soon. Solana, you have ICP, I think they're out there. Like, why would we continue working on Ethereum, dedicating our time to Ethereum, when all of these other like next generation projects exist? And I'd say like I largely agree with this tweet that I saw actually just a couple of days ago. Like I would say it basically is saying like neither Bitcoin nor Ethereum can be replicated today, but Solana or Aptos or Sui or whatever these other ones are realistically can be replicated. And this talks a little bit about the origin story of Ethereum, of Bitcoin. And I really do think that like Ethereum and Bitcoin started out more as movements than they did as technologies. And I would say these later projects are much more so technologies than they are movements. And I think they're interesting. They're valid. I have friends working on those projects or building on them, but they just don't interest me as much because I'm more interested in the movements. Like beyond the origin story, I would say like what interests me about Ethereum is probably the people the most, right? The global community, the people working in this space are some of the most intellectual, but also like values-oriented and like aligned with my values at least, people who make up this community. And this is one of the most special parts. The underlying values, I think, is what really attracts those people to come to Ethereum, to contribute to Ethereum, right? Like, we want Ethereum to be neutral. We want Ethereum to be censorship resistant. We're building something for all of the world. No longer are we building something for just one country. I think these are the values that actually attract people to this technology. It's not just that we want to launch the next meme coin or we want to make a bunch of money really fast. It's that we're really trying to improve the world. There's a massive community of developers, of researchers, of projects that are building on top of Ethereum. So these L2s that exist today are also another reason why I think it's great to be a part of the Ethereum ecosystem, because it's not just the Ethereum ecosystem, it's Ethereum plus all of the L2s. So Ethereum plus Starkware plus Optimism plus Arbitrum plus ZK Sync plus Aztec, plus Scroll, plus so many more that I can't remember right now, that are all working a part of Ethereum, a part of this community. I would also say, like, through the L2s and also within Ethereum, it embraces innovation, right? Like, we do actually end up upgrading Ethereum, improving it relatively frequently. Definitely more frequently than Bitcoin, maybe not as frequently as the more newer technologies, but I would say, like, the fact that Ethereum is willing to innovate, willing to change, to improve, is an extremely enticing aspect of Ethereum. And I feel like it's the best way to contribute to humanity and has the highest likelihood of having a long-term impact, right? Like, I think Bitcoin is cool. I started with a Bitcoin like 10, 11 years ago, but I think Ethereum is more impactful than Bitcoin, right? Like, Bitcoin is cool as a store of value, as a currency, but Ethereum is a general-purpose computer of a new type that we've never seen before. The things we can build on Ethereum and never existed before. I think that's some really cool impact that we can have with Ethereum, and I think we'll have longer-term impact than a lot of these other technologies that are being created today, like Monad and Berachain and Solana and Aptos and all these other things. And so, like, both more impact and longer-term impact is why I dedicate my time to Ethereum, why I think it's an interesting place to be building. And I would also say Ethereum, in my opinion, will have its greatest impact in 20-plus years. That's what I will say, 20-plus years. Why? I would say maybe, like, one thing is it just takes a long time for people to understand the value of blockchains. Like, what is it that they really bring to you? Like, here you can see, in 1992, to prove that email worked, all you had to do was try it once. And it's true. All you had to do was send someone an email in 1992, and they were like, "Wow, that's amazing. That's cool. That was super fast." In order to show them how the internet works, maybe you had to go to Wikipedia or a website and say, like, "Look, now I have my blog online." And, like, right away, the person's like, "That's super cool. I understand how that is valuable." Or today, even with AI, right? You show someone AI, you go to ChatGPT, you type in a prompt, and you get, like, a super cool, like, document, or it does your homework for you. Awesome, right away, that makes sense. The value is obvious. But, like, you send someone 1 Ether, or you send them 1 Bitcoin, they're like, what do I do with that? Like, I mean, that's okay, kind of interesting. Or, like, it's really hard to communicate the value of blockchains overall, because the value of blockchains depends on this concept of hardness. And this takes time. This just takes time to show, right? Like, the value of blockchains depends on them being reliable over a long period of time. And I think only with time will people realize that that is valuable. And so I think, like, that's why I think, like, blockchains will actually, Ethereum will have its greatest impact in 20-plus years, because it will just take time to get there. And all of that to say is that it's not too late to get involved. In fact, I'd say we're still extremely early in terms of contributing, in terms of getting involved, building applications, building things on top of Ethereum or around Ethereum or on L2s. And so how to get involved, I wanted to share some resources, adding on to Romy's call to action from earlier. I think you're doing one already, which is just attending events and learning, right? So Ethereum Argentina does great events a couple times a year. There's also some awesome organizations like Seed Latam, which does also meetups and events. There's ETH Kipu. There is Crecimiento, which is coming to Buenos Aires next month. It's like a pop-up city where there will be some meetups and events, not just focused on Ethereum, but all of crypto. And yeah, continue assisting or attending meetups. There's also, I would say, read a lot. Vitalik's blog is, like, my favorite place to go read and learn new stuff that I, like, had never understood before or never thought of before. So he has some really good articles there if you really want to understand more about blockchains. There's a good book by Chris Dixon called Read, Write, Own. I like the book a lot. I think it's great to give to people who are new to the industry or want to learn more. I gave one to my parents and my sisters. I don't know if they've read it, but I think they should. Twitter, Farcaster are great places to learn more. Contribute. So I think a great way to also get involved is realistically volunteering. So volunteer at events, Seed Latam, ETH Argentina. You can start your own local meetup. And DevCon is coming around. The DevCon volunteer application is open too. I myself started with Ethereum just by volunteering at an event as a photographer. And then I kind of dove deep and learned a lot more about it. There's also Ethereum.org is asking people right now to translate content It's a really good way to learn about the content. You have to learn, you have to understand it first, then you can translate it into Spanish, and you can get some rewards for that. And yeah, eventually you can start contributing to Ethereum in the form of research ideas and EIPs and things like that. And lastly, I'll say attend DevCon, but I'm also biased. Like, that is my team, and I work on DevCon all year. But I think if you are willing to travel to Southeast Asia in November of this year, this is the global gathering of the Ethereum community. And the last one that we had was 2 years ago in Bogota. The next one, I don't know when or where it will be, but I think this is like an event that you really don't want to miss. This is last year in Bogota. Some of you were there, and now it is in Bangkok. It will be in Bangkok this year. Speaker applications are open. They close on Sunday. Volunteer applications are open if you want a free ticket. There are discount ticket applications open for builders. This did not translate right. So the date is not that. It is the 12th to 15th of November. It's in Bangkok. We're expecting 10,000 participants, like 400 speakers. So it'll be a relatively large event. And if you want to make the most use of your time, there will be events happening before and after in Bangkok and around Thailand. So this one, Edge City, starts in October 10th, goes to November 10th, so an entire month beforehand. There will be people over there. And here, for those who are in the talk right now, there's discount tickets. So normally tickets are $599. You can apply for builder discounts at $299. And if you scan this link, it's a $49 ticket that you can check out with. And yeah, that's I would say that's all I have today. Hopefully this was slightly interesting. I think there's some other cool talks coming up later. The panel with roll-ups should be quite interesting. Vitalik's talk later tonight should also be quite interesting. And I'll be around. We could talk in Spanish there. But thank you all for your time, and see you soon.